Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Filippo Lorenzin, and I am the Artistic Director of a Museum of Contemporary Digital Art. Thank you again for joining us for the opening event of Edge Studies, the MoCDA's new virtual exhibition in the Decentraland universe, metaverse. With me, there are the photographer and artist Aaron Huey and Marie Chatel, our MoCDA curator. I would like to take this opportunity to thank both for working so hard on this amazing display and exhibition. Marie, I will leave the floor to you.
Thank you, Filippo. Well, first of all, welcome to the opening of Edge Studies. As Filippo said, it's a solo show dedicated to the work of Aaron Huey. To start off, I'd like to introduce Aaron Huey's practice. Aaron is a photographer and new media artist known for his work with National Geographic. Over the years, Aaron has created over 30 stories for the established American magazine, including several cover stories. And he's now extending his practice of photojournalism to new realms that involve VR, AR, and metaverse spaces. He is currently on assignment for National Geographic to picture the far edges of virtual worlds. Aaron is also the founder of Amplifier and the current artist in residence at Unfinished. A 3-time Standard Fellow, he was most recently named the Stanford Starting Lab Fellow, where he is mapping Web3 ecosystems and new frameworks for data integrity specific to photography. So now I'd like to ask you all in the audience one question. Have you ever wondered about the furthest edges of the metaverse? Do you know what virtual world's wildest territories look like and how to access them? These questions lie at the heart of this exhibition. Virtual spaces seem to follow the logic of the flat Earth theory, the misconception of Earth's shape as a plane or disk. Developers and communities design central buildings and events apart from any boundary. Reaching the edges of a metaverse means exploring what hasn't been planned and what has been ignored. In 2021, Aaron Huey started examining these uncanny spaces in worlds like Decentraland, Minecraft, Somnium Space, Voxels, and VRchat, a quest we reveal in Edge Studies. Seeing what happens when you reach these uninhabited spaces reveals the artificial nature of virtual space. Here, where the boundaries appear, the essence of simulacrum becomes clear. We observe the unveiling of Maya's veil or Plato's myth of the cave. By discovering these places' fictiveness, we can understand the mechanisms and how they work. Photographs and videos from the edges documenting falls or the nature of underworlds inhabit this exhibition. The exhibition is organized in 2 sections. The first one, on the outer walls, shows pictures from the edges of the metaverse, documenting the process of reaching the edge and of falling off the edges, notably in the video Infinite Fall, where we are taken through the avatar's experience. In the second section, inside the cube, we invite you to discover the underworlds of several metaverses that Aaron explores regularly. When developing the exhibition with Aaron, we discussed the importance of displaying not only the unknown parts of virtual worlds, but also the process of getting there, which in some instances could be easy, and in others would take hours of work. With that in mind, I'd like to hand over to Aaron with what could be the first question of our Q&A. Aaron, could you please tell us more about the different journeys you've experienced in your explorations in the metaverse?
Sure. The different journeys. Well, I guess it would probably start with the first time that I found an edge. It was a pretty natural motivation and part of the assignment for National Geographic to try to find the edges, because it's so much like the work that we do in the world already. always trying to find the most remote or the furthest edges of the spaces that we're covering, the most difficult to access places. And I remember asking the world builder Artur inside of Somnium Space if there was an edge that I could see and not just some kind of invisible wall. And he said, indeed, there was, and that it took a very long time to get there. And I was at the time inside of Somnium on a kayak with him, and he pointed at a mountain off in the distance. And he told me that if I went to that mountain and I flew off the top and I flew as far as I could until I fell, and then I walked for like an hour, then I could find a literal edge that could be jumped off, that I could jump off of. And I have got a video of that, of kind of what that looks like to find that mountaintop. I'm going to share that really quick, and then I'll talk about some of the other edges and the ways the different edges look. Let's see here. I'm going to find the... Here we go. And this should have a little bit of sound. Once I can find a way to open it up and play it. So this is me failing on one attempt. That you can actually like fail sometimes. And I actually fell and I had to reclimb this mountain. And there you can see through the world. The camera went beneath the mountain. It's another one of the spaces I'm interested in, is the in-between, to be able to see where we're not supposed to see as the viewer, under the world. So this goes on for some time. I'm going to fast forward this because it's like, it's a very long exit, and eventually you fall. And then you walk, and 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 it really literally takes about an hour or more to get to the edge of Somnium. And you walk through day and night, because the cycles of the day and night are an hour and a half, I believe, in that space. And when you get to the edge, there's an edge you can jump off of. And that's a particularly interesting one, because you don't reset inside the world and just land back on top again. In some worlds like VRchat, you can just jump 100 times in a row and you keep arriving back at a spawn point. And in Somnium, it's not true. And Somnium, you fall into an infinite fall. And in fact, there is a video in the exhibition called Infinite Fall, and it's also called amniotic fluid, because when you make the leap, you fall into something where your body kind of glitches out and disappears, but there's still a kind of form, and you're surrounded by what sounds like a bubbling liquid, almost like a womb, and you can still see some light and shape, but form is kind of lost in that space. And if you didn't do a hard reset of the game, it would just stay like that, I guess, forever, until the power went out or your computer crashed. So it's as infinite as it can be, as long as your power's on. So that was a particularly interesting space for me. That was a long ramble. You got any questions about that, Marie?
No, I think it's fascinating to learn about the different places, and also the different experience they create. The idea that you can jump off continuously, like being involved in a continuous fall on Somnium, and then move to somewhere completely different where the edge just spread infinitely. I know you've explored also Minecraft and Decentraland, which are more very continuously rebuilding generative places. So
yeah, the Minecraft server, when I discovered in a special mode that you can go beneath the world in Minecraft, and as you travel through it in the distance, you can see the code or the algorithm building out the world ahead of you, especially if you go out to the furthest edge where people have not been building yet. you can see lava tubes underground forming through the algorithm and through the programming itself. And so in some strange ways, you're seeing something no one has ever seen before, because it's a mostly randomized set of orders that are being given to construct lava tubes and lakes and terrain. And so you're watching literally the kind of birth of a metaverse space, which I've not seen anywhere else. That's the only place I've seen something like that. And within the show, in the MoCDA space in Decentraland, there are a couple of videos from that of a sunrise, and then another one from under a forest, looking up, seeing the trees and the lava tubes through the Minecraft Earth.
Yes, it's really interesting, and I thought like this would go well with the second question I had for you. By the way, if people have questions that they want to ask, like this is the moment to type them in the comments, so we can ask them to Aaron. But I've heard one of your listened actually to one of your interviews, and there was this thing that you said about photography and its potential to undo assumptions. And I was wondering what surprised you the most in the places you've uncovered, if there were elements that you expected and others that were absolutely new and revealing of a specific structure that
specifically about edges, or just the metaverse experience itself?
In the way you explore the metaverse and try to find these unknown spaces, whether it's underworld or at the edge, that you find like peculiarly
I think it's
strange or unexpected.
I think it's unexpected every time I go in, because, you know, if I'm looking at the fact that I can explore 10,000 different metaverse worlds, really, because in some of these spaces, you know, you look at something like VRchat and there's 10,000 worlds. There's almost infinite territory, and there are edges that the users don't go to because they're not pretty enough or finished enough or officially part of the game or the world. And I really like that. I like finding the places that are not part of the official space, the places that you're not supposed to see. Like there are places in some worlds, like in Decentraland, you know, there's a perimeter fence. There isn't like an edge you can fall off of. There's an edge where you're eventually just stopped. And the perimeter became a kind of edge study for me as well. You know, not just the edges that I was jumping off of. You know, every time I reached an edge, I would jump. And so the series is a series of leap images, of like hundreds of leap images. But in some of the studies now are studies of edges that are perimeters. And I'll share one of these perimeter screens with you now, because these are pretty interesting. This is another kind of edge that I found recently in Somnium, and these you can walk through. In Decentraland, you can't walk through it. But this idea of being able to be either inside or outside of the formed space or the official space. So this is just evidence of something yet to be loaded. And I like that idea. What is yet to be loaded? What does that mean? And I've got another one here from showing the run in Decentraland, which is quite interesting. If I can find the play button here. No. There we go. Is that playing? There we go. So in Decentraland, where the exhibition is right now, you can run until you can't run anymore. And when you reach that edge, it's a perimeter fence. And it appears to move around, because sometimes I've entered and not been able to find it, where the run that I make just keeps going and I'm never stopped, and then other times I'm stopped much earlier. That was another early exploration of an edge.
Great.
Go ahead.
Yes. So I just wanted to ask you, like, if you were, because you've explored a lot of these spaces, and if you were like someone in our audience and trying to get into the exploration process of, getting to know more art spaces within the metaverse, what would be your first go-to?
What's interesting is I don't think that there's like one place better than any other. If you want quantity, a place like VRchat where you can experience, thousands of worlds versus a singular world, like in Somnium, if I want to visit the edge, it's difficult. Accessing it with the headset and the streaming link cable, and then like you have to have like an hour and a half to go and try to find it. But in a world like in the VRchat worlds, you can enter and find an edge immediately, and then find another edge and find another edge. So I think all around us in any world, whether it's a metaverse space or the real world, there are edges that we just don't look for. There are edges around us in this IRL space that we just take for granted and ignore. And this is just a different way to explore something that we can do here too.
If I can add a question, can I, Marie?
Yes, for sure.
I was just wondering, given your experience with traditional photography, and given your experience when it comes to let me say this word with adventure in a way, I suppose that more often than not, when you go and take pictures of a real place, especially when it's like a very far away place that usually is not visited by anybody, I suppose you may feel a bit not lonely, but I suppose it's quite of a sort of lonely experience, if you know what I'm talking about. Like you're going to a very isolated area, place of a world. I wonder if you felt the same thing when you explored these edges, like the edge of, I don't know, VRchat or Decentraland, Somnium, and so on.
Definitely. I mean, it's definitely like a weird solo performance. Like it's an exploration mixed with with a weird performance at the end, where everything is being recorded, but I'm alone. I'm just walking and walking and walking, or flying and flying and flying, and I'm generally completely by myself. I make journeys into metaverse spaces with some of my peers occasionally, but this is primarily a completely solo journey for me. And so, especially if I get into something like walking and flying for an hour and a half, it's a pretty weird, long solo meditation where I'm sitting there with my headset on, just reflecting often on the absurdity of it. It is totally absurd what I'm doing, that I'm walking through a game world for an hour and a half and flying. And my audience, to be honest, a lot of my audience, the Nat Geo audience, they think this is so ridiculous that it's not exploration. There's nothing interesting about it. They want me to show them some postcard pictures from Fiji or Hawaii or something. I don't know what they want, but they don't want this. And a lot of people are arguing that this is not exploration, which is really interesting and quite narrow-minded to say that, like, for something to be exploration, it's got to look like it goes on Instagram 10 years ago. Because I just, like, each assignment and each like exploration I undertake in my life, I go really, really all in. And so it is a genuine exploration. And after this, I'll go back to like the Grand Canyon, the Little Colorado River, and I'll be hiking for weeks at a time in places, looking at ancestral Pueblo dwellings from 1200 years ago. It's not one versus the other. They're all exploration to me. And I don't have a hierarchy of whether like rock and water is real exploration and virtual is not real. But it's very clear from sharing this work that the world believes that like virtual and digital is not real for the most part. Exploration.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that makes it that makes it in some ways a little more lonely, because it means also that not only are people not there, people are not mentally and intellectually prepared to even look at or talk about it. So that's a different kind of loneliness.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In fact, I was wondering, for example, if you, like you just said that usually, when you went for these hours-long digital hikes, you wore your headphones. So I was just wondering if you like listened to the same podcast or the same music you would listen, when you go for IRL hikes.
No, that's an interesting question.
Like for special playlist, for example, because for example, for me, I mean, of course, it's definitely not the same, but for example, like when I play video games, maybe I listen to some kind of music, and of course, when I go out and run or or walk, I need to listen to something else. So I just wonder, of course, it is definitely different from what you did, but you know what I'm talking about.
So I'm not listening to music because many of the worlds, they've got their own sound, which becomes part of the strange meditative quality of it. Like in the water image that's showing now, there are like insect and animal sounds and flowing water sounds. So really, I just kind of sit there in like my weird visual meditation, like recording and listening. And so in those places, you really get lost in your own thoughts. And I don't want the distraction of singing and music and someone else's ideas, because all of these become kind of like the amniotic fluid of the infinite fall. If I'm in a place where all I hear is like crickets and water, it's its own like repetitive like mantra of sound. And so that mantra of sound is often part of like the experience, and part of the piece is just the subtle sounds of the spaces.
Makes sense. So next step must be like a soundscape made with all the sounds you recorded. At this point, this will be the next step for this project. I hope there must be some kind of concert or something.
And I was gonna say there's also a lot of absurdity too. Let me see if I can find this one. This is a hilarious one. This sometimes, if I've got a world where I can go quickly, then I'm like, this is in VRchat in this space. I made like 100 jumps in a row and recorded all of them. This was a backflip, and I start doing kind of tests to see what I can do in the space. And it would be really funny. These are public spaces. It would be really funny if somebody jumped into this world in time to watch me doing this kind of bizarre, repetitive series of loops over and over again. I would definitely look like a crazy person. I definitely laugh at myself when I'm doing some of these experiments. It's a performance that nobody sees except for maybe one still image or a video somewhere like here.
Yeah, it's funny how the notion of embodiment can be very different from one place to the other, and how you feel constrained in your avatar body.
Right. Right. I believe that the event is finished for today. Of course, there will be many more opportunities to learn more about Aaron's work, and more specifically about this project. So, of course, please feel very welcome to follow MoCDA's social media profiles if you want to get updates about our future projects, events, and of course, everything related to each studies. Now, I want to thank you, Aaron, and of course, I want to thank you, Marie, as well. It was a pleasure meeting you. It was amazing to learn more about the works on display. And again, congratulations for your work. I believe the exhibition is, of course, I'm saying this because I'm from MoCDA, but you know what I'm talking about. I mean, if it wasn't good, I wouldn't say it. But it's very, very good. I really like the selection. What else? Please, this is more for the public. Please visit the exhibition in person. I mean, quote unquote, in person by following the link you can find on MoCDA's website and on our social media. What else? Thank you again. Thank you again, Aaron. Thank you, Marie. Is there anything else you want to say before closing?
No, if anybody wants to go into Decentraland, my body's in there right now. And I may make a quick run to the perimeter now to see if I can run there from Decentraland. So I will stay in the space right now in the gallery for the next couple of minutes, and then I'm gonna go out to the edge now and see if I can find it. So if anybody wants to come say hi and join me for a run.
That's great. Thank you, Aaron.
If anybody wants to come out, I'll photograph at the fence.
Sounds like a great plan.
All right.
All right. Thanks again. We look forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We look forward to welcoming you to the exhibition. See you soon. Take care.
Right. Thanks,
have a lovely rest of your day, or have a lovely rest of your night, depending on where you are, I suppose. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.